Hello there, I'm John Hamilton, the founder of the Tasmanian Devil Unzoo in southeast Tasmania, and I'd just like to say welcome to another edition on our Tasmanian Devil Channel. It's actually been raining cats and dogs here. It's a terribly wet day and we're not spending much time outside. But the interesting thing is there aren't many cats and dogs around here, literally, because of course our feature animal is the Tasmanian Devil. Now, the devil's a marsupial, and so are kangaroos and wallabies and possums and koalas. There aren't any koalas in Tasmania, that's an interesting point. But there are some other really interesting creatures. And this is the story about some amazing discoveries we've made here in recent times. Maggie, our zoologist, is taking up the story.
Now, I've shown you in previous episodes how we use really high-tech infrared cameras to observe our wild devil population here on the Tasman Peninsula. Now that's of course to make sure that none of our wild devils are contracting that highly lethal devil facial tumour disease. However, we've been doing this for a number of years, and of course those cameras are activated by motion. So we are actually capturing a number of different species as well. Now, as you're wandering around the Unzoo, you will see a lot of indicators of different species. So you might see some diggings, some different scats, but these cameras actually offer a very non-invasive way of actually observing those species in their natural habitat. Now, of course, having done this for a number of years, we can also observe the species assemblage. So that means the different species that come and go. If there's a feral or invasive species that comes into the area, we can tackle that straight away and protect our native wildlife. Now, of course, we've made quite a few amazing discoveries on these cameras, as the Tasman Peninsula is, of course, a marsupial hotspot, and maybe more specifically, a carnivorous marsupial hotspot. So we'll have a look at some of the images. Here we have our eastern barred bandicoot. Now this little critter, you can see little indicators around the park. It makes a little conical digging as it's searching for grubs and insects. However, this is listed as vulnerable on the mainland. Of course, those foxes and dingoes have almost wiped them out. Tasmania is, of course, a hotspot. Of course, here we go, we've got our wombat. Now these guys are quite common around the Unzoo, lots of lush pasture for them to feed on. However, they are nocturnal. Oh, there's a little one. So we can also see that there's healthy breeding populations here as well, which is excellent. We also have a few interesting visitors, some very curious cows perhaps. Now here we have some more marsupials. So these are some macropods, so they're large-footed marsupials. So we've got our redneck wallaby or Bennett's wallaby, and also the smaller one is our Tasmanian paddymellon. Now both of these animals come out at dusk and they feed on grass, so they're herbivores. Now we have loads and loads of these in Tasmania, and that's because we have so much lush green pasture. Now they're also one of the Tasmanian devil's favourite food items. They actually make up a large chunk of the devil's diet. Now this is a very exciting discovery. This is our spotted-tailed quoll. Now this is a very close relative of the Tasmanian devil. It's also a carnivorous marsupial. However, this particular animal is more arboreal and is actually a better hunter than our Tasmanian devil. It will, however, scavenge occasionally, but it mainly feeds up in the trees, so it will go after things like birds and reptiles, smaller mammals and marsupials that are tree dwelling. Now, why this is such an exciting discovery is because distribution maps do not show this animal on the Tasman Peninsula. There has been a couple of sightings, but never any real hard evidence of this particular species on the Tasman Peninsula. So we're really excited. We captured these images about a week or so ago, and it's the first real hard evidence of the spotted-tailed quoll here on the Tasman Peninsula. Now earlier this week, John and Kyrren found something a little bit different.
Here's Kyrren again, and she's actually found something quite unusual. We've seen one or two of these before, and this is a little animal that unfortunately is dead, but that's not too bad because it's quite normal to find these at the end of their lives because they only live 1 year. What is it? Well, it's a relative of the Tasmanian devil, and it's called an Antechinus. It's a little carnivorous marsupial. The female has a pouch, and this fellow's a boy. And there's an amazing story about Antechinuses. Now, these little creatures are first cousins of the Tasmanian devil. It doesn't look at all like a devil. It's much smaller, of course, and it's brown or grey, brownish grey, and it runs around during the day, whereas the Tasmanian devils are animals of the night. Now, the thing about the Antechinus is it only lives 1 year, and the reason is at mating time it gets far too much for the male and it kills him. It's called the Antechinus anticlimax, and the female lives just long enough to raise the little ones. Now, there are numerous species of Antechinuses. This one's called a Dusky Antechinus, Antechinus swainsonii, that's the scientific name. But there's another one just on the hills of our isolated Tasman Peninsula, on the eastern coast, along the spectacular cliffs of the Tasman National Park. And it was only discovered a few years ago by a scientist, a zoologist called Andrew Baker from the Queensland University of Technology. Now, he was looking at Antechinuses around Australia, and he identified one that was found on the east coast of this peninsula as a newly identified species. Now, there are some characteristics of this that make it different. And 5 years ago, I happened to find one. I was driving on the road out to this part of the national park, saw something on the side of the road, picked it up and thought it might just be this newly discovered species. Now, this was 5 years ago, in 2015. So I picked it up, got in touch with Andrew Baker. Now, also at the same time, 2 other Antechinuses have been found around our Unzoo. It's not so uncommon to do so, especially in midwinter, because that's mating time. And that's when the poor old males, unfortunately, kick the bucket. They mate for quite a long time. And that's, well, how long? 14 days, 20 days or so, and it kills the poor fellas. Now, we'd found a couple of others. So I took some photographs, and I'd like to run through these. Unfortunately, it's not video, but I'd like to run through these and tell you the story of the Tasman Peninsula Dusky Antechinus, found only on this peninsula. Just to start, though, a little bit about the Antechinuses here at the Unzoo. Now, they're wild, they run around, and this is a photograph of one. We've never had a really good photo, by the way. This is a photo of one that was sent in to us by a visitor just a couple of years ago. Here's another one which we captured in some grass with one of our automatic cameras. Once again, not a good photograph, but it tells us there are Antechinuses around. And this is what they look like close up. You can see they've got throat, long whiskers like a devil, much smaller, only about the size of, it can fit in the palm of your hand almost, and some wonderful little teeth. Now, these can chase frogs and insects, and they're really agile. So essentially, they're little mini hunters, mini Tasmanian devils. Now, we found, as I mentioned, a couple around the Unzoo a few years ago, and also I found the one in the Tasman National Park. Let's have a look at them. Here they are, 1, 2, 3. Now, if we tip them upside down, we can see there's a bit of a difference here. On the right, there are 2 that have sort of brownish tummies. And on the left, there's one which is grey, and that's a bit of a telltale. Here it is. I thought this might be the new species. So Andrew Baker, the zoologist, suggested that I take some little samples, clip a little bit of tissue out of the ear of each one, and we put in some alcohol and sent it off to him, and he ran a DNA test, and it was the new species. It was very exciting for us. Now, you can see the difference. The other one had a grey tummy. This one's got the brown tummy. There we are. This is the Dusky Antechinus, and this is the Tasman Peninsula Antechinus. You can see the little teeth just here. So this is it. That's the story of the new species, never seen a live one. If I do see a live one, it'll be an extraordinarily special day. And the reason even this one was special, because do you know, only about half a dozen examples that have ever been spotted, and this is one of them. It was a very special time at our Unzoo.
Now that really is an amazing discovery. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. Do hit subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're just going to leave you with a spectacular scene over Dunalley Bay here on the Tasman Peninsula. We'll see you next time.